echo here. Thank you so much for joining. As Stefan said, we had quite a few people registering, and like Claudia said, this is a tipping point thing. So we're going to start small, and it's so wonderful. Thank you so much for agreeing to come and chat to us. I actually am the city lead for a Business of Purpose, which is a global community, and it's where I first saw Claudia chatting about her business and what she's doing in telecommunications. And she is, for those of you that don't know, I'm sure you all read, but she is the co-founder and board member of Goood Network and Goood Mobile, which is operating in Germany. And it's so wonderful for us to be able to kind of hear your learnings and share some of your insights into a real business, because everybody talks about business as a force for good. But it's so nice to actually be in the trenches and hear how difficult it is or how challenging and rewarding it is to run a business for good. So Stefan is from Tribe Plus Studios in Namibia, and I'm from Think Human Being. And we are obviously all kindred spirits on the group. And I think, like we said, hopefully next time we gain some more momentum, maybe I'll have to get you back on here, Claudia, if we can do a follow-up at some stage. Yeah, so I think we'll get started. Stefan's we'll just jump around and ask you some questions, and then we have a quick chat if anyone has questions of their own at the end that they'd like to ask Claudia. Okay.
Okay, so I think, Claudia, for us in Namibia and where we started now, Debbie and I started, obviously we realized that there's quite a lot of thinking that have been done in the world about business purpose and around B Corps and so on. And it's something, while it really moves some people's hearts here, it's not something which is very common in an ongoing conversation in our business community yet. So the idea really for us is to just get the conversation going and get some seeds sown for people to start thinking differently and to join in the bigger community. So yeah, obviously the best place to start is to practically learn from someone. So it's really a privilege to have you here. So maybe you can, if we can start off by, if you can tell us just a little bit about, I mean, how did you start your business? What was the initial why or calling for you to start a business with a focus on purpose?
Cool. No, I'm super happy that you said you're at the beginning of your journey, because so am I. I just started this journey like around 3-4 years ago. Actually, my background is business, hardcore business. So I was C-level executive in European telco communication, active in 8 markets. I was very young in the board. I was 32 and a woman, which is quite, like spectacular in the area where I live, because women hardly get into that level. And I had a great career. So I was managing telecommunication operators in 8 markets in Europe. And yeah, I enjoyed it. But I originally joined the telecommunication industry because I had the belief telecommunication is connecting people. So I contributing to something meaningful, bringing people to the internet, getting people the opportunity to, at low rates, discuss with each other. And somehow I started when I was around 40. I think it's a natural age when you start questioning things, like something is missing. And then I came across this Japanese concept, ikigai. I don't know, is there any one of you who knows that one? It's a very cool concept. It's the one with the 4 circles.
For my own planning, it's very useful.
It's super useful for your personal journey, but it's like a Japanese concept, and it's a concept how to define your own purpose. And it has 4 circles, actually. The first one is do what you love, do what you're good at, do what you get paid for, and do what's good for the world. And if those 4 circles intersect, then you have found your purpose. And for the first 40 years of my life, I was doing a job that I loved. I loved telco. I loved telecommunications. I was very good at it because, got good feedback. The pay was really great. I can't complain about it. And as I mentioned in the beginning, I had the feeling I'm contributing to something positive to the planet. But 4 or 5 years ago, when I saw this concept, I was like, okay, am I still contributing to the planet? In Europe, the situation was that we had nearly 100% internet penetration, nearly 100% mobile penetration. Phoning and surfing was very cheap. I was missing this feeling to contribute to something big. It was more about, optimizing margins, cost cutting, making sure, the shareholders get more out of the business. That was my job. And I was like, do I really want to spend the rest of my life doing this? And I made a quite clear cut and I said no. And I decided to quit and start studying social innovation. I had no idea what social innovation was. It sounded cool. I was in technological innovation, so I'm an innovator. I can do technology, but social innovation, probably it's something with digital and social. And when I went to university, when I was researching, were 2 universities in Europe that offered that course 5 years ago. Luckily, this changed a lot by now. To my surprise, I just met people from the nonprofit side there. I was the only tech person, the only digital person there. But for me, this was eye-opening because it was the first time in my life that I had a very close relation to people from the nonprofit side. I didn't have the opportunity to meet this other world before. So I was a business person, like hardcore trained on business. And when I met them, for me, in my brain, something like changed. I got a total different insight to the world and started loving the other side and was thinking of how to build this bridge to the other side. And then we came across the concept of conscious business and social business. So how to align business with purpose, with contributing to the world. And I was trying a few different things. I founded an NPO together with some others that was quite successful. But after 1 year in this NPO, a friend of mine who was with me in the telco industry said, Claudia, why are you doing this? You know, you have been trained in business, in telecommunication for 20 years. You're actually wasting your resources. There is one thing you can do well. Why don't you utilize that? And I'm like, yeah, but you know, like how? You know, like the only thing I can do, drop me off in the jungle and somewhere, and I will be able to build a mobile network and a mobile brand. That's what I'm good at, but this is not useful for the world. And the guy said, yeah, but we can make it useful. So actually we aligned and came up with the idea for mobile, and that's our business, was our first venture that we founded, where we took the business model of the mobile service provider, so mobile tariffs, and 10% of what the people phone and surf go to a charity of the choice of our customers. So our customers in Germany and Austria can pick a tariff with us. They can pick the network they want to be in, and then they pick a charity and they say, I want to support, I don't know, Caritas, or I want to support Terre des Hommes or whatever. So we have more than 250 nonprofit partners, climate change, so climate project. The customer can choose what's dear to their heart and then they can contribute. This was our first step to show that you can make telecommunications more sustainable, but this was just, you know, like the top of it, because we had to change the whole business model in order to become more sustainable. And when I talk about sustainable, I just don't talk about ecological sustainability, because in German-speaking regions, I don't know how it is in Windhoek or in the other areas where sustainability is mostly, you know, like understood as ecological sustainable. So plant a lot of trees, be green, this is sustainability. But actually for us, sustainability is a holistic concept. So it's social sustainability, which is basically our donations to the community. It's ecological sustainability, making sure that all our processes are as good as we can, not harming the planet. So we are for sure using green energy. Where we can't do that, we compensate CO2. We make sure we have a good recycling system, water, the electricity in our office, everything. So what's in our sphere of influence, we try to like make ecologically sustainable. And the third pillar, and that's also important, and that's something that's often missing on the other side, on some social businesses, is it has to be economically sustainable for us. Because if we can't, you know, like finance this thing by ourselves, it's hard to keep the impact sustainable. So it was important to us that we build a business model that has a positive impact on society, that doesn't harm the economy, and ideally also contributes ecology and the planet, and ideally also contributes to a greener planet. And the third pillar was make sure that we can finance ourselves, so that we have a business model that is long-term financially sustainable. And that's what we managed. We founded Goood Mobile 4 years ago. We launched our first tariffs in Germany 3 years ago, in Austria also 3 years ago. And now after, and 1 year ago, we managed to be operational positive. So the business is self-sustaining. And what we are very proud of is that this business is an example for how you can change a business model in an industry. We are not huge, we are small, we have a few thousand customers, which is for telco experts like, yeah, you're tiny, but it's not about how big we are, it's about we made a proof. And there is a nice saying, time for discussion is over, examples shape reality. I think it was a German social entrepreneur who said that, Philipp von der Wippel. And it's really, if you don't set examples that it's feasible, people will never believe you that it's feasible. And I felt that personally. When we started out on our journey, all my telco peers were laughing at me like, no, she's totally crazy. You know, like, it's not never going to work. It's stupid. But somebody has to start, has to be a pioneer. And yes, it was a hard way. It didn't, you know, like grow as we expected it, but it worked. And now we can go out and show this example, and people see if we, 3 people with passion, managed to get the money to build up a team to do that, then, you know, everybody can. And that's my pledge currently, and that's what I'm doing a lot. I'm also talking a lot to people in my industry, the telco industry, but also in other industries. You know, look at what we did. We are open to exchange, take what you need and scale parts of it. You know, we are not the ones who will, you know, like change the world, but we are probably, or maybe the ones that give a spark for others to change. And if big companies take up this spark, then change really happens. And that's our mission. So I know I was long, Stefan, but I tried to put it in one, then that you have a good base.
You did excellent, because I had 3 questions. I think you've spoken about most of them. So Claudia, maybe just if you've spoken about some of the things that are unique in your company, the culture of people and suppliers that you're working with, are there maybe other things that you found that is a lot different in terms of the network of people in the ecosystem that deals with your business?
Yeah, so actually we are strong believer that, especially in the startup community, consider, even if you're 4 years already, we consider ourselves a startup, that it needs different ways of startups. So in Austria and all over Europe, and probably also all over the planet, there are these very much hyped unicorns, those startups that, you know, like have billions of dollars of money going in and that have huge financial impact, and the owners have a great exit. We feel that we ourselves are part of the zebra community. This is a concept of 4 Americans, ladies that wrote like, our planet needs a new way of businesses. They need not unicorns, because unicorns don't exist. They need zebras, real companies. And zebras are black and white. And this means they stand for profit and purpose. So you can do both. And zebras are living in herds, so they are collaborating. And that's also, I think, key to our business. We are very open to collaborate. You know, like I was trained in business, like when I was going to business school, it was like Wall Street, Michael Douglas and stuff like that. So like the really hardcore stuff. All my friends were going all over the planet to be bankers in New York and London and wherever. And this is where I come from. But actually, this thinking is outdated in a planet, this is at least my belief, in a situation where a lot of things are changing. This thinking of, I want to win, it's my elbows, and, you know, like maximize profit and competition, and I want to be first, will not work anymore. We need to collaborate in order to solve the issues we are facing, because none of us is smart enough, and I have a big, you know, like self-esteem. I believe I'm very smart, and lots of people probably think that they are smart, but I will not be able to solve problems of the planet. And even if we're here like 10 or 12 people or 15 people, we will also not solve the problems of the planet. But the more of us interconnect, the more of us make networks, we get different ideas, different angles to look at the problem and collaborate, and can collaborate further. So one of the major differences is we talk openly about our failures. We talk openly about our ideas, about our projects, which I would never have done before. So it was like most of the projects we did in my past was everybody who was in the project had to sign a non-disclosure agreement, just like not to tell anybody. Now we are like open on every front, because we believe that you spark something, you get a spark of somebody else, and then you can change. So this is, I think, an important part. And it's also about how we work together. So with our startup team, we had 10 people to build up this business. It's a mobile operation in Germany for 1 year, 1.5 years. And with that team, we also decided we want to have a different way of working together. So we don't want to be top down, but we want to like work on eye level. We tried a holographic model. It didn't work out, but still what's still there, because we didn't like implement it right, but what's still there is we want to work with everybody being responsible, everybody being in charge, everybody taking what he or she believes is needed. So it's also a different way of operating the business, and that's important to us. So I think if I sum up the major differences, it would be collaboration externally, it would be working together internally, how we work together internally, and what's like uniting all of us, and also here is this strong belief we need to contribute to a greener and fairer future for everybody. That's our mission, and that's what we want to do. And I think this is the alignment we have in this community.
Excellent. Okay, just before I hand over to Debbie for the next question, a short answer maybe, Claudia. So one of the things, if you are a CEO like you were in a very profit-driven, orientated environment, and everyone is trained in that way, sort of your power and the respect that you have comes from meeting these numbers and performing in this environment. So was it challenging for you as an individual to make the shift? And you said some of the people said you're crazy for moving to this different environment, which seems or is perceived to be much less powerful and less successful compared to the normal norms. And obviously that is a personal journey. Was that something which was challenging for you to think about yourself differently?
Mm-hmm. Definitely. So I was CMO, so Chief Marketing Officer, not CEO. We had a CEO in our group, but Group Chief Marketing Officer. But still, yes, definitely. Like I think whoever is used to power, it feels different if you don't have this power anymore. And it's a wake-up call when you like find out, okay, your power is attached to your job title and not to yourself. Luckily, I have been changing jobs in the group every 1.5 years. So I have been doing jobs all across Europe. And every time you go into a new job, you have this one. Like you leave the old job, you start at zero, going back. Then you get kids, you come back. It's like a feeling that I was already used to. So I had it 5 times before in my life, this losing power, getting back. So I knew it's feasible to get back. The new thing for me is where to get back. It's not getting back to climbing the ranks in corporates. It's what's my new values? How do I measure success? This is something I'm still struggling after 4 or 5 years, really intensely working with it. Because of course, before I was measuring my success in my paycheck, my, I don't know, how social status, whatever, and how many people do I, oversee. And now in my normal life, I don't have an issue. But if a business magazine calls me and says, how many people are employed with Good Mobile, then I'm always like, like I'm not successful, we're so small. But it's not about that. The impact we make, that's the one that we should measure ourselves. The inspiration we give. And so, but if you're in this thinking for 20 years, it's very hard to like just, it's very deep inside. And rationally, I'm like, okay, we have a different model. We measure our KPIs. So what's important to us, we have KPIs and we measure them. And the KPIs are on the social side. How many people are donating? How much money? How many talks do we give on the subject? How many people do we reach? It's different KPIs. It's not how much money do we make and how many people are in our company. But still, if you wake me up at night, sometimes it would happen if you ask me, because it's so deep inside. So this is, I think, the biggest struggle for me, like redefining success for this new purpose and business.
Yeah. Thank you, Clara. That's a very nice, honest answer. Okay, I'll hand over to Debbie.
Well, the two of you have done such a good job in terms of answering all the questions and nice long answers. So I'm going to skip around here. I think just briefly, Claudia, I think for people who are not familiar with the concept, because I know we said that Goood was Europe's first telecommunications company to get B Corp certification. You can just, and I know you've mentioned the pillars in terms of social and, you know, the sustainability, but maybe just if you can just briefly touch on the B Corp accreditation and why that was important to you, and, you know, kind of the role that they're playing, maybe.
So, Louise, you also mentioned, you know, the B Corp certificate. I started zero because when I started, I had no idea about B Corp. So when we were out there and looking for business models and business opportunities, one of us stumbled upon a B Corp framework, and we immediately fell in love with it. Why? Because it was a great concept for businesses and people trained in business how they can contribute to a better planet. B Corp is a movement that rooted in the United States, and it is business as a force for good. It's a community of around 3,000 businesses all across all industry, across all sizes, that commit that they do business to contribute to society. Our flagship poster boys are Patagonia, maybe you know the apparel brand, Ben & Jerry's, which is a dairy ice cream product, but nowadays it's also tech companies moving in there. Kickstarter is a B Corp. So a lot of innovative companies, Lemonade, the very famed InsurTech in New York City that just IPO'd is a B Corp, is a B Corp. And what aligns all of us is that we believe that business, we don't just need to create shareholder value, but we also need to create stakeholder value. And stakeholder value with the B Corp framework is very clearly defined. So whoever wants to like get an insight into, I want to have a sustainable company, holistic sustainable company, I recommend you go to the page of B Corp. Then you see all the pillars, do the assessment, takes you 1 or 2 hours, and have a feeling where you have your blind spots. And the pillars are, it's 5 pillars. It's social responsibility. So what do you do for your community? It's ecological, as I mentioned before. It's governance. Who rules your company? What influence do stakeholders have, like workers, government, whatever? And workforce. So how do you work together? And the last one was governance. Debbie, do you know it by heart? I don't know the last one by heart now. I normally know them by heart, but today it's not my day. But I can't hear you. Debbie, we can't hear you. Need to unmute.
So I've got it actually here. Governance, workers, community, environment, and customers.
Customers, yes, that's also an important part, that customers have a say in what you're like delivering to them. So you have feedbacks, you involve your customers in product development. And actually, if you meet all those points, you can claim you're sustainable. And the B Corp Association, which is a non-profit organization, actually does an audit of your company and gives you at the end, if you like manage to meet the criteria, gives you a stamp and a certificate basically that you're a certified B Corp. But it's not about the stamp. Actually, it's about you get, if you do the assessment, if you do this stuff, you get a very good manual how to become more sustainable. And actually it's a good start of a journey. So if you like did this assessment, you know where your weak spots are. I always tell this story, and Debbie, you have heard that when we started out, we were very much on the social side. We wanted to contribute to social projects. We wanted to make sure that equality is rising with the project support. We totally forgot about the ecological side of our business. So of the negative externalities we have on the ecological side, because this was not important to us at the time we started. We wanted to do something good for the people. And then when you look at sustainability holistically, then you find out you can't do good for the people if you harm others by, you know, like not taking care of your ecological footprint. So when we started out, we didn't have a recycling system in our office. Stupid. Now, of course, we have one and stuff like that. So it's small steps, but if you do the audit, you find out where your blind spots are. Or you couldn't run a sustainable business and then having a command control structure. This would not fit because your workers would not feel well. Or you could not like have a lot of volunteers working for you for no pay and say I'm sustainable. So you have to make sure you pay fair. So this whole concept actually helps you and gives you a guiding star for your mission. And I can totally recommend it to anybody coming from the business side who wants to become more sustainable to look at this concept.
Cool.
On top, the positive part is it gives you a lot of publicity. I wouldn't be invited here if Debbie would not know that I'm a B Corp. So also like interesting to connect. It's a community of people out there that you can, you know, like tap into, get ideas, resources, and that's pretty cool.
Cool.
Was this clear enough? Because
That's
I'm like already like
totally clear. I'm just laughing because I know you said you just felt you're in the right place when you saw that. If for everybody else, you must go and have a look. They have their mission, B Corp's mission is called the Statement of Interdependence, which I really like. That whole like it's a statement of interdependence. And when I read that, I was like, oh, that is so my mission. It's almost like your own why. You can find your own why based on their why. It's fabulous. So I think maybe I'm just going to, because I know people are going to ask questions quickly. So this is last two. One, so how does your
I
mission?
can't hear you. You hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Somebody's, I think Debbie.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me now?
Yes, perfect.
Okay, cool. So just quickly, from a practical point of view, Claudia, how do you keep your why or your mission alive in your day-to-day work in terms of really keeping it top of mind as you go about your daily operations or your decision-making on a day-to-day basis, just keeping that why clear?
We have a very, you know, like clear why, and it's very broad. So we say we believe in shaping a meaningful future. And we do that for all our businesses. So we're not just running mobile operations, we're also doing consulting. We're just building a digital startup for the nonprofit world, because the world is not digitalized a lot with a huge European nonprofit. So actually what we want to do is use our know-how. We are quite seasoned already, so mid-40s, to contribute our know-how to this sustainable future. And you need to make it tangible. So on this Sustainable Development Goals framework, that's one of the United Nations. Those of you who are in sustainability for sure know that one. I think it's a very nice framework to say, this is where I'm, you know, like going for the next years. Whatever I do, make sure it's aligning to the Sustainable Development Goals. And this is 7 goals the United Nations defined, from no hunger, no poverty, climate, it's not climate justice, but something around climate. And it also has 2 aspects in there. One is sustainable consumption. It's like pushing sustainable consumption. That's the SDG 12. And the other one is SDG 17, partnerships for the goals. And those are the 2 goals actually we believe we can contribute. So sustainable consumptions by educating, by giving opportunities for sustainable consumptions to people, and partnership by the goals, by things like this, talking to people from different worlds, from the business side, from the nonprofit side, even on the regional government side, and making sure that we facilitate and help and contribute to those projects. Because we believe we are social entrepreneurs, but the next step actually is becoming system entrepreneurs. So using the learnings we had over the past 4 years to be a catalysator of change. So helping people from different worlds coming together to get to the next level to contribute to the SDGs in their world. And I think that's what we learned. And that's the most valuable asset we took out of our journey. We're now able to walk between worlds and help people getting together and facilitate this collaboration that I mentioned to you before, Stefan. And that's our goal. Cool. And so as we have this broad goal, to answer the question again, as we have this broad goal, everything, basically a lot of things are on mission, and we take the flexibility to decide every single day where we go to, because we believe we need flexibility, because in an uncertain world, it's hard to have like this goal I want to achieve. I don't know what happens tomorrow.
Exactly. Okay, last question, then we can open it up for other questions. So what are some of your interesting company rituals or interesting things that you guys do that we might not find anywhere else? Some fun things or...
No, we don't have anything like that. Interestingly, no, we don't have, so we're not wearing black hats on Friday or whatever. I think what makes us interesting is that we are very, very different individuals. So we are very diverse, not in terms of sex or religion or nationality, but in terms of personality. So everyone has a very different personality. And but this is not a ritual. This is just what makes us special.
Yeah, I think maybe if you can, sorry, last question. Just if you can touch, it was so interesting and really stood out for me last time when you spoke about how you try to do the whole holacracy thing. And something you said there was so cool, but maybe you could just tell everybody else, it was really funny. But how you just said you had to find the things that worked for you. That really stood out for me last time, because I think sometimes what I found going into this also is that people think you're crazy. And sometimes, you sometimes get sucked back into those management principles of like, this is the way you do things, or like, oh, you have to do it this way. And I think maybe if you can touch on that quickly, and then we can open it up.
So it's very similar to the stuff I told you about. How do you measure success? How do you lead? We have been trained in business. We have been trained in a certain way to lead. And then we decided now we're going to do holacracy because it's cool. Like we read Frederick Laloux, Reinventing Organizations, and nice with great principles. So if you haven't read it, go there, read it. And then we said, okay, cool. If other companies can do that, we do that. And then we went into it. We got a coach and we said, oh, holacracy is the model that we work. Holacracy is a model where you work together in circles, and every time for a project there is a circle lead, but the leader doesn't always have the leader. Sometimes he's the collaborator and like serving the others. Sometimes he's taking the lead, so everybody in the team can take the lead. And when we started out, we were all happy. We recruited the people and showed them the circles and said, you find your own circle. And for the first 4 or 5 months, it's like, hey, happy, everybody loved the circles. And then meet our performance goals, so our go-to-market goal. We wanted to launch in December and we didn't manage, and it was February. And then the founders, we were all my age trained business people with, like being trained in top-down management. We got stressed. And what happened then is in one meeting, we just our old self, because we were so stressed that we said, so, and now guys, stop this whole crap with the circles. You do this, you do that, you do that. And with this thing, we basically destroyed everything, because you cannot lead holacratic if you don't have the leadership skills there. So you need to go and train leadership on eye level. Nowadays, there are different concepts. So if I would do it again, probably I would go for an agile framework and would like do a different framework. I wouldn't go to the pure holacracy. But because we were not, like able to manage this framework, because we had different values of how to lead. After 4 years, I think I'm getting better in this kind of stuff, and I can do better. But this is a word of warning or an inspiration, or however you call it, to all of you who want to apply new management ways, if it's agile or any other kind of concept. You need to work on yourself, and you need to train yourself as much as you need to create the framework for your organization. So it's not just like writing down the principles for the organization and the shared values for the team. That's nice. But if you don't work on yourself, you will fail. And yeah, that's one of the failures I always share, because I was very naive going in there.
Cool. That is, I love that story. It's really stuck with me last time. I think, guys, it's actually really meant to be this conversation in terms of who has relevant questions. So if anyone would like to ask a question now, maybe you can just unmute yourself or drop it in the chat, or I think unmute yourself is fine. Because I know Claudia has to leave at 5:02, just to rush off and do her other day job, being mom. So yeah, anyone have any questions?
Can I start with a question? Claudia, often when you have to inspire people and to make sure that people are on the same page, you have sort of mantras or things you keep repeating in the company that is quite simple for people to understand and latch onto. So do you have mantras or short phrases that you keep on using for your team to have that common, help support that common mindset?
Wir können alles schaffen. Those of you who are speaking German is, we can manage everything. So it's on us. So we can do it, basically. but it's very simple, but that's the one. So if you're like really down, it's like we can manage it, and it's like what we have done it before. We have shown that that we do things that people would think it's not feasible. We can do it. So I think that's the one. It's a very simple one, very common one, but it works for us. So look back what we did, we managed, we're still alive and rocking. Nobody would have thought that we get that far. We are still there. We can do this. If we did this, we can do the next one.
That's brilliant. Thank you.
I have a question, Claudia. Concerning the B corporations, yes, is it, there's a lot of movement in Germany, as you know, concerning the green development, and there's a lot about discussions about the science-based targets and a lot of, companies consulting in these areas and starting alliances and collaborations on prototypes of doing sustainable business in Germany. So there's a huge movement about it. So what's just to understand the difference between the B Corporation, for instance, and science-based targets initiatives?
So it's all very similar. We did very thorough, like as I said to Debbie, we fell in love with B Corp because we could immediately relate to it. As business people, you can immediately relate to it. We also looked at the economy for common goods, Gemeinwohlökonomie, which is a concept that's popular in the German-speaking region, and other ways of measuring sustainability. We had a huge project with the University of Business Administration in Vienna, Economics University of Vienna, and we looked at different concepts, which one fits us, which one fits, can we look at, and we for ourselves decided B Corp. And why? Because we can mostly relate to it. If it takes a lot for me as a leader of my company to understand the concept, then there is a huge risk that it will just sit there and nobody will really use it. So if you look at all these ESG, ecological, social, governmental ratings, rankings, whatever, there is a lot of things out there, and companies have to do their CO2 tracking. But the problem is, the bigger the company gets, these things sit in the controlling department. Nobody looks at them. Nobody uses them for managing the business. So we have been working in these organizations, and we had all this stuff. So the companies we worked before were actually good on doing these reports and getting these figures right and having like meeting targets. But we said, if we do something, we want to have something that's dear to our heart, where you wake me up in the morning as one of the founders, and I can always tell you why I'm here. I'm sorry, Debbie, I missed the fifth one, but I have a clear understanding what it's all about. All the other things for me are less tangible. And this is why we decided for this one. But with the same criteria, we would meet the economy, so the economy of the common goods, and a few of the other things we could like go for. We decided for B Corp because it felt right for us. What's your take on it, Petra, to make it a bit interactive?
Yes.
So,
yes, because I work more in the industry where you have a lot of suppliers, and the supply chains are very, very, very long supply chains. And if you have to deal with about 5,000 suppliers around the world, yes, then I don't know, it's you have to really, and I think this is a movement which is quite interesting, and people really trying to get influence on the supply chain, on spot in all these areas where you get food from or textiles from. And I think it's also quite interesting that they are not depending on governmental sides, politician sides, or NGO sides. So they try to really bring influence into the spots.
No, I think it all the concepts have their right in different industries. So this concept fit for us. They are adopting it now, the B Corp certification, also to fit big companies. I'm not saying that B Corp is the only certification. I'm saying this is the one we think that best reflects our values.
Yes, very good.
But happy to exchange. If you have some ideas, just drop me a chat in a LinkedIn chat. I'm happy to look at more of things. Maybe there's something out there, like the world is changing, that's even better and even more
I think
useful?
not better. I think it's every movement in this direction is very, very good. But I think something is more suitable for other company structures. Yes, because if you have a lot of suppliers around the world, you probably have to have another, methodology. Yes, it's just. But I think the movement itself is very important from all the big companies. But anyhow, I give you a chat because I had a lot of ideas, but it's not for this.
Oh, cool. Super. Then let's
Thank you. So good.
exchanging.
Cool. I think we've got time for one or two more questions if anyone wants to unmute.
So if there are no questions right now, I always say connect on LinkedIn. I'm very active on LinkedIn, at least in my direct messages, and ask things, feel free, connect, share ideas. I'm super happy about new inspirations, and thanks a lot, all of you. Like it was really, it's great to have an opportunity to share our story. We're always happy if we get that one. And also for those who did active inputs, I learned something new, and that's always benefiting.
No, I must say thank you so much for, I know Stefan might want to say something now after me, but it's been amazing. I think